Hill 689 took place during the Sanh campaign in 1968 and was a fierce confrontation between the Liberation Army and the U.S. forces. Hill 689 was located just 2 to 3 kilometers from Takhan Airport, holding a strategically important position that determined the survival of the entire Sanh base complex. The Americans considered losing Hill 689 as losing control of the entire area, which is why they built a strong defensive system there. The U.S. forces, with more than 1,200 Marines and Special Forces, were equipped with advanced firepower, supported by Air Force and artillery from nearby positions. The U.S. defensive system included multiple layers of barbed wire, alarm electronics, and reconnaissance planes constantly patrolling and monitoring all activities. Given its strategic position, the U.S. forces were determined to defend Hill 689 at all costs, as its loss would threaten the entire Sanh area. The attack on Hill 689 by the Liberation Army began at the end of June 1968, with the goal of completely destroying the base complex to pave the way for a victory at Sanh. After months of siege, the command decided to launch the first attack on Hill 689 on the night of June 28th, led by Squad 1, Company 10, Battalion 3, Regiment 246, from the Viet Bac military region. Before the mission, the soldiers of Squad 1 silently held a living memorial for themselves, knowing that this could be their last battle. They wore their uniforms neatly, holding each other's hands tightly, showing a strong determination to be ready to sacrifice for the country. Taking advantage of thick fog and darkness, Squad 1 secretly crossed multiple layers of barbed wire set up by the U.S. forces, with the help of special reconnaissance units who had cut open a path. The sudden attack by the Liberation Army caught the U.S. forces off guard. The assault units quickly destroyed several strongholds and eliminated a number of U.S. soldiers defending the hill. The battlefield at Hill 689 turned into a sea of fire and blood, with AK gunfire, grenades, and mortars echoing, creating a chaotic scene. However, just minutes later, the U.S. forces reorganized their defense and launched a fierce counterattack. Flares were shot into the sky, illuminating the entire combat area, causing OV-10 reconnaissance planes and B-52 bombers to be called in for support. Artillery and mortars from high positions relentlessly rained down, causing significant losses for the Liberation Army. Squad 1 endured heavy enemy fire, with 14 soldiers killed and many others wounded right on the battlefield. In the chaos, in leading his men to withdraw and preserve their forces, while staying behind to hold off the enemy until his last bullet. He died while bravely fighting on top of the hill. Although the original position was lost, the attack provided valuable lessons. The first attack on Hill 689 broke through part of the enemy's defense, creating an important foothold for the Liberation Army to tighten the siege and prepare for the decisive battle later. The soldiers who died in this battle left an image of resilience and courage, unafraid of sacrifice for the liberation of the country. They are unsung heroes in the struggle against the U.S., inspiring future generations of soldiers. The sacrifices of the soldiers in the attack on Hill 689 demonstrated their courage and absolute determination for the nation. The battle saw the sacrifice of many soldiers who did not hesitate to face danger to complete the mission. One of the most touching images was the sacrifice of Squad 1, Company 10, Battalion 3, Regiment 246. Before the mission, the soldiers held a living memorial for themselves, understanding that this could be their last battle. In those silent moments, they all showed their resolve to fight until their last breath, not only for the mission, but also for their comrades and for the country. The battle at Hill 689 was a fierce confrontation, with intense resistance from the U.S. forces. Despite initial successes, the Liberation Army soldiers had to face incredibly strong enemy firepower. The sounds of guns, artillery, and bombs continually rained down, taking the lives of many soldiers. Squad 1 suffered significant losses, with 14 soldiers killed and many others wounded right on the battlefield. Nevertheless, the remaining soldiers did not waver and were determined to continue fighting. Deputy Squad Leader Nguyen Van Sing, one of the heroes in this battle, was hit by artillery shrapnel in his shoulder and chest, but still refused to give up. He fought until he lost consciousness, and afterward, his comrades had to withdraw to preserve their forces. Deputy Company Leader Pham Ngoc Khanh, though severely injured, remained resolute in fighting and protecting his comrades. He died while standing firm on the battlefield, showing a fighting spirit that lasted until the end. These sacrifices were not only a significant loss for families and comrades, but also a symbol of patriotism and the unwavering determination of the Vietnamese people in their resistance against the US. It was these sacrifices that contributed to the final victory, forcing the US forces to withdraw from. At Hill 689 will forever be heroes, leaving their mark in the history of the Vietnam War. The victory at Hill 689 was not only a significant military achievement, but also carried deep meaning about the resilience and determination of the Vietnamese people in their fight against the US. After days and nights of intense fighting, the Liberation Army defeated the US forces, forcing them to retreat from Khe Sanh, one of the most important strategic bases of the US in southern Vietnam. This was a major victory, not only because of its military significance, but also because it created a strong psychological boost for the entire battlefield in the south, especially after the losses in the Tet Offensive. The Liberation Army's capture of Hill 689, a position considered by the US to be impossible to lose, broke through the US defense at Khe Sanh. Despite the US forces' overwhelming numbers and advanced firepower, they could not stop the Liberation Army's powerful assault. This victory not only allowed the Liberation Army to expand its controlled area, but also forced the US to retreat from one of the most important positions in the Quang Tri region, which had once been a strategic center for the US in the Khe Sanh campaign. The great significance of the victory at Hill 689 also lies in the affirmation of the determination, courage, and selfless sacrifice of the Liberation Army soldiers. Despite suffering heavy losses with nearly 300 soldiers killed during the 11 days and nights of fighting, the Liberation Army remained resolute and did not give up. This victory is a testament to the unyielding resolve of the Vietnamese army and people in the fight against the US. It also affirms that despite facing superior military power, the spirit and fighting will of the Vietnamese people can defeat any enemy. The victory at Hill 689 also had great strategic significance. It seriously weakened the strength of the US forces in southern Vietnam, creating favorable conditions for future military operations. The US was forced to change its strategy, opening new opportunities for the Liberation Army to regain control of important territories. With this victory, the Liberation Army left a monumental mark in the history of the struggle against invasion, laying the foundation for the ultimate victory in the struggle for independence and freedom for the nation. The victory at Hill 689 is not only a military achievement, but also a symbol of pride and deep gratitude for the sacrifices made by the Liberation Army soldiers. These soldiers did not hesitate to give their blood and lives, fighting until their last breath to protect the homeland. And they deserve to be honored as unsung heroes in the fight against the US. Pride comes not only from the resounding victory, but also courage, resilience, and determination to overcome all challenges which they displayed throughout the war. Gratitude is the emotion that the entire nation feels for the soldiers who sacrificed their lives at Hill 689. They were not only soldiers fighting for the country, but also comrades who stood by each other, sharing every difficult moment and sacrifice. Despite facing intense enemy fire, they remained steadfast, fighting to the end to protect their homeland. Their sacrifices have left a deep mark in the hearts of every Vietnamese person, making them feel proud and grateful. The pride of the Vietnamese people is further affirmed through the nationwide honoring of the soldiers who fell at Hill 689. These soldiers were not only heroes in the war, but also shining examples of patriotism and selfless sacrifice. The gratitude towards them does not only exist in the days of war, but has continued to this day, as future generations still remember and honor the contributions of these heroes. The battle at Hill 689 has become an eternal symbol of bravery and national pride, marking significant victories that the Vietnamese people will always remember.